Good morning and welcome to the video for Thursday, May the 14th. This is going to be for 4th grade and working on our new lesson with perimeters. To start with, we are going to kind of review some of the things that we talked about last year. So the Unlock the Problem will give us a chance to do that. So last year when we were talking about perimeter, we would know that if we're working with a rectangle, the measurement of this side is going to be 7 feet. And the measurement of this side up here is going to be 5 feet. And so we can add all four of our side lengths together to get the perimeter. So 5 plus 5 would give me a group of 10, 7 plus 7 would give me 14. And so if we add those together, we would get 24 feet. And so to finish the problem, we would need to have 24 feet of stone border to put around this particular garden. And so what we're going to work with today is extending that idea, but we're going to use multiplication problems. So since we are working with either a rectangle or a square in this lesson, we can do one of two things. So at the bottom of the page on the left-hand side, we can see the formula that we could use for the perimeter of a rectangle. And so we can do 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. There will be one other way that we can do that in just a moment that I will show you, but this is the primary way that we are going to end up doing that. And so if we were to do that, we would end up for this rectangle having 12 times 2, which is going to give us 24, and 2 times 8, which is going to give us 16, and then add those together. So when we add those together, we would end up with 40 centimeters. So if we have a square, we can take the one given side, if we only have one side, and multiply that length by 4. And so we can do 16 times 4 to get 64. So those are the kind of things that we are working with today. There is one thing I want to show you on the next page. So we'll do this part real quick to figure out how you guys should proceed with doing this, and then I'm going to explain this first question here. So we are working with 2 times the length, and so we are going to say that the length is 18. So you can do 18 plus 18 or 18 times 2. They end up working out the same way. If you don't know your multiplication facts for working with numbers this large, just add it to itself. And that will get you the correct answer. So that's going to give us 36. If we take 2 times 14, we can double 14 or do 14 plus 14 to get 28. And so when we add those together, that would give us 64. So this idea for number 1, can you use the distributive property to write the formula P equals 2 times L plus 2 times W another way? Well, the answer is yes. And so what you guys will be doing, maybe not in 5th, but you definitely will in 6th grade, is this idea of figuring out how to take something that looks like this and condense it down. So what we do know is that we are going to end up adding everything together at the end. And we are also going to be taking the measurements of our sides and multiplying them by 2. So the other way that we could write this problem would be P is equal to 2 times L plus W. And so if we were to continue to work that out, again, this is supposed to be an L, not a 1. The next step of that would be to plug in our numbers. And just to show you that this works, we could take our 18 and our 14 here, add those together. So we can do P is equal to 2 times 18 plus 14. And then our next step would be to solve this part in here. And 18 plus 14 is going to equal 32. And then our last step would be to do 2 times 32. 2 times 32 does give us 64. So in some other instances, we would also expand this out. So what we would, the other thing that we would do as our second step would be to break this apart to where we would end up getting P equals, and then we would say that we're doing 2 times L, and then we are adding 2 times P. Or sorry, that should be a W. So there's an instance that we will do that kind of thing as well. So those are kind of things for in the future, but this is a different way that we could do this. So you could, in theory, take your lengths of your sides, add them together first, and then double that answer, multiply by 2. So let's take a look at our share and show. So to start with, let's just do the traditional way. So we are going to put 2's here. And then we are going to do the length. And so I think what they want us to do is put length and width here. And then we are going to carry that down and write in the number for the length and the width. So we'd have 2 times 8 for this, 2 times 4 for this. Write our answers down below. And then add together to get a total of 24 feet. So now what I'm going to do is give you a chance to kind of pause the video, and I want you to go ahead and look at 2 through 7 and see what you would end up doing to solve that. So again, something like number 6, you're going to multiply this side times 4. If you are comfortable doing that, great. If you are less comfortable with doing that, you could use repeated addition, but I would suggest just writing out 116 times 4 would probably be easier than trying to write out 116 plus 116 plus 116 plus 116 and answering that. So this would be what we would be looking at for that. Again, you could probably take something like this and combine it together and then just double it, because that would involve less work. Maybe the same thing here. You could add these 2 numbers together and then double. So think about what strategy you would want to use for that. Go ahead and pause the video, and when you're ready, go ahead and hit play. All right, so assuming that you did that, let's go ahead and take a look at what we've got. So I'm going to use a strategy where I'm going to add these 2 numbers together. Those are going to give me 20 yards. I can double that to get 40 yards for number 2. For this one, I am going to, I think I'll do the same thing. So 152 times 2, or same thing as 152 plus 152, would give me 304. This one I can do 4 times 4. So I can take the length of this side and multiply by 4. That would give me 16. For number 5, again, I'm going to go ahead and add these 2 numbers together. So 54 times 2 would give me 108. For this one, 116 times 4, I went ahead and wrote it down, so I'm just going to use this to make sure I don't make any mistakes. So we get 24 for the first part, and then we would get a 6, and then we would get 4. So 464 is what it looks like we should have for that. And number 7, we can add both of these together. That's going to give us 63. Let me get my pen back here. There we go. Get 63, double that to get 126. So for number 8, we want to put lights around the front of the house. The house is 12 yards long and 7 yards high. So if we are going to put it around the front of the house, we are not going to have to worry about doing the back side. So let's draw out what the front could look like. So if we were to do the front of the house, we could potentially say that we are doing this side, and this side. So we would need 2 sides that are worth 7 feet each, or 7 yards each, and then the front, which would be 12. And so we could get 14 for this plus 12, and one possible answer could be 26. Now, it would depend on how you would have a fence and where that fence would go that might divide the front of the house from the back of the house. We could also say another possible answer is that we could just cut this in half and say that the division between the front of the house and the back of the house is at the halfway point, and we could just do 12 plus 7. So that would be another option. So depending on how you would divide that up, we're definitely going to use all 12 yards in the front, and then we might have two possible ways that we could do around the sides to get the front of the house. And then if we were just saying that it could only go here, then we would, of course, have 12 yards. For number 9, side length for a square with a perimeter of 60 meters. We can do 60 divided by 4 to get that, and we would end up with an answer of 15. So let's go ahead and take a look at our homework problems for today. Again, Risen Christ students, you're going to be doing number 2, number 4, number 6 on the front, number 1 and 2 on the back. So for number 6, what you want to do is go ahead and talk about how you would find the measurements that you need to figure out what the border would be. And so make sure that we are talking about a rectangular room, what that's supposed to mean for our steps. For number 3, make sure that when you're working for this, that we are making a square here. And so you're going to take this measurement and multiply by 4 and see if that is going to be larger or smaller than the amount of ribbon that we have to work with. Let's see, I don't think there's anything else that I want to go over with. For number 5, make sure the lines of symmetry are very specific because we have a shape that it would be difficult to, let's say, it would actually be impossible to draw a line this way. And even though I would have half on this side and I would have half on this side, those two halves are not going to look the same. So that limits the amount of ways that we can do a line of symmetry. So think about that. Both sides of the shape have to look identical, even if they are mirror opposites of each other. And then we are comparing we're comparing 7/10 to 70/100 for number 6 if you end up having to do that problem. So that covers everything I want to go over for today. Again, the homework video will be coming out on Friday morning, as will the last lesson of the week. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask in Google Classroom, or if you are finding this in a different way, please ask your classroom teacher. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow.